Hi, John Hand here, and the pulsing cinema movie of the day is The Parallax View from 1974, directed by Alan J. Pakula. It's a paranoid movie, and it's part of Alan J. Pakula's informal trilogy, the Paranoia trilogy of paranoid films. Clute, The Parallax View, and then All the President's Men about the Watergate scandal. But The Parallax View is my favorite. The Parallax View is a film about political assassination, about political intrigue, loosely based on the JFK and RFK assassinations of the 60s. In 1974, it was an era where paranoia was rampant throughout the culture, throughout the world culture, really. Remember, this was just a few years after the Zapruder film had even been seen by most of the public. Started being shown around 1969, and there were bootleg showings of it, late night television, underground showings of it. It really wasn't officially shown on mass television until like 1975. So a year after this film came out, and this was again in the Watergate era, the Nixon era, the the post Flower Child era, and the early 70s, the Vietnam War era. So there are all of these paranoid elements running rampant throughout the culture, and the Parallax View definitely exploits that paranoia. I mean, even the title, The Parallax View, the idea that from different perspectives you'll see an event differently. And that if you just squint your eyes and look at eye level, you'll actually see the truth, which might be a very dark truth. And so this film, I mean, it started right from the beginning in Seattle, Space Needle. And there's this contrast. We see the Space Needle in Seattle contrasted against like a totem pole, and then somehow the modern landscape is very similar to the old one. That these old things and part of society and culture and assassination, political assassination, that's been with us throughout our culture, our lives, our society, is that political assassination has always been a kind of function of change, which we don't like to think about, but it's there, and it's far more prevalent. We think of, we're a first world country, that's something that's old third world countries, and that's behind us. Maybe not. Again, that's what the Parallax View posits to us, and a lot of the assassination researchers in the 60s and the 70s were presenting to us. So the film, which of course is vaguely based on JFK and RFK, but the film begins at the Space Needle at a party, and there's a political assassination by a supposed lone nut who eventually finds himself falling off the Space Needle in a pretty scary sequence. You're up there in that high area, and there's some pretty scary shots if you're if you're afraid of heights. You might want to kind of squint, close your eyes while you're watching that scene. So, okay, a lone nut killed this politician, and that's the end of the story, says the Warren Commission-esque panel at the beginning of this film. The corridors of power have closed the book. But there is this one reporter, played by Paula Prentice in the film, who finds out some stuff that disturbs her, that there are other things afoot, there are other plans afoot, that this may have been a planned political assassination. And she tells one of her friends, a former colleague, a journalist by the name of Frady, played by Warren Beatty, this reporter who is told by this Paul Prentice character, hey, look, there's some other things going on. She's scared for her life, and she eventually winds up dead. And so that leaves the Warren Beatty character to investigate what went on with Paul Apprentice's death, what went on this political assassination, and he uncovers this mysterious Parallax Corporation, which in this film is basically a company that facilitates political assassinations. And creates patsies and sets everything up. It seems like a one-stop shop for Central Intelligence in this film. It's a shadowy corporation based on, of course, the title Permindex of the corporation, or rather Parallax is based on Permindex, which was a real-life shadowy corporation that many people saw as possibly having something to do with the assassination. Permindex, very shadowy corporation. We don't know a lot about Permindex. It was supposedly a trade organization of some kind that was... the origins of the company seem to be with Clay Shaw's International Trade Mart in New Orleans. And Permindex started, they was based initially in Switzerland, and they promised all of these, that they were going to get into land development, and they were going to build skyscrapers and parks and all these other building developments. And that never came to fruition. And there was the idea that this company was a front for the CIA, and that Permindex was involved in financing the attempts on de Gaulle's life in France. And then Permindex moved to they moved to Rome next, and then South Africa. So anyway, a shadowy organization. And definitely in this film, you build up the paranoia and parts of this film. Of course, the beginning assassination, at a restaurant, kind of. You can, if you squint, you can see Sirhan and the RFK assassination. Paul Apprentice's character, I guess, is kind of vaguely based on the columnist Dorothy Kilgallen, who was one of the few people. I think he was the only person who was granted an interview with Jack Ruby, and she started investigating Jack Ruby, and she was like, hey, "There's more to this." And she died in a very mysterious way. There were some other journalists who died in mysterious way, along with the other witnesses to the Kennedy assassination. That very soon after the assassination, these witnesses began to kind of die off and what have you. So there was a certain amount of paranoia in the air, and then you had Jim Garrison and his investigation into Clay Shaw, which then became the basis for the Oliver Stone JFK film. So that's all in the air. The film, excellently directed by Alan J. Pakula. The climax of this film, where Frady is in that stadium area, and then it almost is like this main character who is stuck in this geometry of political intrigue, this literal physical geometry. It's beautiful widescreen cinematography that visually illustrates the idea of paranoia and conspiracy and being stuck in the physical geometry of society and and the world and the agency of political assassination. Very, very scary, very spooky, because there's elements of it that feel very real. And the cinematography by the Prince of Darkness himself, Gordon Willis, is just beautiful. There's that scene where Frady, pretends to be kind of a lone nut. Then he goes in there and he's in a hotel room, and one of the representatives from Parallax comes and visits him, and it's just practically dark. I mean, it's very much like, it's that stuff that Gordon Willis was doing with The Godfather, where it's just like a dark room where there's just highlights, of characters, and it's just, if you see it in high definition or film, it looks beautiful, and the glint of these characters' eyes. I remember I saw this on HD television years ago, and it just blew me away. The integrity of the image and the power of the image. It was a great looking film, one of the great looking 70s films, period. Great film. Music soundtrack by Michael Small is just great, incredible. Yeah, man, all kinds of great little character actors who show up and do little bit parts. Anthony Zerbe, he's a little part of a research facility, a think tank, and he's great. A bunch of little parts, a great paranoid '70s film that you must see. Alan J. Pakula, The Parallax View, great.